of these boxes. Now these boxes particularly are all of the little boxes. Now, if you're going to do a design, you can choose if you're using crystals or the natural elements like the beach scene top that I had shown already in the beginning. So this I'm going to make it look more like a crystal geode topped box, and I don't make them the same design, I do several different designs. And in this particular color palette, what I've chosen is purples and pinks, and I'm going to be mixing those colors and also doing some solid selection colors where I'll do just purples or just pinks. As we walk through making this design, I just want to remind you that the best part of all of this is you can automatically make each and every design a one-of-a-kind. It is so simple because resin doesn't pour the same, it doesn't flow the same, and you can really just have the freedom to do whatever you wish with the color combinations. So suggesting to do so is definitely encouraged. I particularly can make maybe a custom color option where one customer perhaps wants 5 different boxes, same color combos, but all a different look. That's absolutely possible. And when you're just making yours, like let's say we're doing gifts, this is for 5 different people. Obviously, maybe you want some similarities, but you'd like to show that individual design for that person. So like I say, it's really up to you, but you're more likely going to have where each and every one of these boxes will look different, even if you try to make them exactly the same. But have fun with it. That's the grace of the resin. The resin gives you the option to pour and place this color wherever you would like to place it. And the best part with the resin as well is as it cures, that's when you're placing the elements on the top of the box, and that's how it'll all hold into place. Once the curing is set, everything is solid on the box and you've got your design. It's definitely something where when you have the different elements, keep in mind what you're using, because some things you don't want them to be too sharp or too big. You know, just kind of common sense. Maybe pretend to set a little bit of a design of those elements on top of the box to see if it all looks cohesive in the sizing of everything. Other than that, have fun with it. The best part about this is, like, seriously, this is the fun part. And it doesn't stop at just placing the resin onto the box. It stops after you decide if you don't want to swoop the colors together and that kind of thing. Like, so you get to pick how far into the design you actually want to make these boxes. Even though I'm doing color blotches here or just doing a swipe of one color, you'll see through this process that I'm going to incorporate these colors together as well by doing pattern swiping. And that really increases the design of the overall look. And once it cures, the layers of that color swiping just really takes place and it makes everything look fantastic. Now, as far as the crystals I do find from a source because I make a lot of this type of art. You can always go to a crystal shop and just find the right size crystals for the top of your boxes if you wish to use them. And what I suggest to do is compare the size crystal to the size box. I do fairly larger crystals on the top of my boxes because I do want them to stick out and be noticeable. But I also, in the same hand, are making sure that they're thick enough so that if you were to flip the box lid open, it's not just going to break right off. But you can use any kind of tumbled stone. Really just be free with whatever it is you want to do. And if you don't want to do crystals at all and you just like the color, just do the colors. I mean, that alone is beautiful. So now that I've got most of these patterns swiped, I am going to be cleaning up around the edges of the box and just kind of make sure that there's not excessive pouring over any edge of the box, and then I'll start preparing to put my elements on the top. This first element that I'm going to be using is it's like a shattered mirror glass where one side of it has a mirrored reflection and the other side's just clear. And it's not like a sharp glass, but it's something that you can find in the crafts section of a craft store. So anyways, I start with putting that on because that gives me that texture and look of a geode, because they're rough. They have many different little small crystals in them, and so it kind of gives me that base to set my crystal tips into. Now, when we're doing this process, the resin is curing very slowly, and that's also why I say don't rush your work. Because if you go too quickly and those crystals don't have flat bottoms, then your crystals could tip over and it will land in the resin. That can be quite a mess. So also, side note, don't drop your crystals in the resin, because that's probably not going to be a usable crystal, which is what I just did. Anyways, so place the crystals once you're noticing that resin is becoming tacky. Now, this process is like 45 minutes in. You have to have a very warm room, and everything is going to come together very cohesively. Now, one of my very last steps that I'll do is actually add the glitter pigments towards the end. And the reason I do this towards the end, I mean, this resin is very close to curing, and that's when I'll add the elements, because I don't want any spreading. Like, I don't want to add that glitter and have it literally just spread itself across, because that's what it can tend to do, especially if you have maybe a little bit of a lean where that volume of that resin is kind of working its way to one side of your piece of work. That pigment is also going to float that same way, so it perhaps will go into an area you don't wish. It's just a side note, because once you get it together, you want those intricate details to be kind of with the crystals, and then that way you keep that swiping design of the resin colors all exposed, and you can have the different elements come together in the top of these boxes. Once the designs are all complete, we now have to wait for the curing process to take place. I typically will just leave mine setting overnight and then come out to them the next day to process the rest of these boxes. Now, first thing we're going to do is take the tape off of the box. Sometimes what I'll do is kind of score the edge of the box of my bigger ones, but these little guys just tend to come off really well, especially if you've gotten the tape sealed properly to the edge of that box before pouring the resin. This project is now complete. Let's take it outside and have a look at everything. Alright, you guys, I really hope you enjoyed this project. You can find the resin in smaller portions at the local craft store or perhaps online. I do make the bigger boxes, so depending on the box size you get, you can make these in any size. Just be creative on your taping and careful on your placing, and you will have success, I promise you. Good luck, everybody, and if you wish to see any other resin projects, please take a look at some of my other videos. I will link a few below, but I also have a category that you can check out of just my resin art as well. Thanks again for watching. I appreciate you and your time. We'll see you again in the next video. Bye-bye.